remind that Africa's destiny lies in our own hands. The same holds true for gender justice. Achieving it requires political will, financial investment, and unwavering belief in the power of women's leadership. As we look to the next 30 years, let us ensure that the vision of Beijing and the legacy of Akinamama wa Africa live not only in declarations, but in policies, in budgets, and in the daily realities for women across Africa. I hope that our convening today will contribute to collective action and solidarity needed to shape Africa's destiny in these very uncertain times. Thank you, each one of you, for your leadership. Thank you for your solidarity. And thank you for your partnership in this collective journey towards justice and equality. Thank you for being here.
I think we can do a lot better than that for Dr. Elizabeth. Indeed, as we look 30 years back and also look ahead 30 years from now, I think the biggest question that I have picked from her is, how do we reimagine leadership that can deliver on the promises made in 1995? Thank you very much, Dr. Elizabeth. May I now take this opportunity to invite our second speaker, Bisi Adeleye Fayemi, who is the co-founder of Amandla Institute for Leadership and Policy Advancement. You're most welcome, ma'am.
That applause was not for me. Your Excellencies, Honorables, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. Hasn't the coffee kicked in yet? Thank you very much. Dear Auntie Elizabeth Manga, Chair of the Board of Akinamama wa Africa, for that very thoughtful opening address. Because of what she shared with us, and because of the fact that I know that one of my other aunties here, Florence Butegwa, is going to give us a keynote address, I am going to leave out quite a number of things I would have spoken about in the interest of time. But if I was to summarize all the things I would like, the key message I would like to leave with us all is this: we cannot afford to be tired. It's been 30 years, it's been a long time. I have told the story I'm about to tell a number of times, so if you've heard it before, please forgive me if I'm boring you. But if you haven't heard it before, that's fine. 30 years ago, when we went to Beijing as young women, because the Akinamama wa Africa delegation at the time, we were mostly young women. There were very few of us above the age of 35. So as young as I was then, I was 32, I was the one responsible for coordinating the delegation. We had at least 22 members of the delegation, and we all took off from London. We had arranged that those of us who were going from different parts of Europe and the UK should all live together on the same flight, except for one or two people who flew directly from the continent. And our delegation was going to stay in two places. In Beijing, for those of us who were at the Beijing conference for the NGO forum in Huairu, which was an hour outside of Beijing, and those of us who were staying for the official conference. So those of us who were staying for both stayed in Beijing, and those who were there just for the NGO forum stayed in Huairu. And so I got to the hotel around 10, 11 in the morning, and I started to check in. Guess what time I finished checking in? I did not get to my room till 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Why? Because I was trying to explain to the reception that there were 10 of us checking in that morning, but 5 of us will be leaving later on in the week, but another 5 will be coming in, and the number of rooms we needed would not change, but the names would change. And so I would start this explanation, and I'll get to a point where they will say, wait a minute, I say, wait a minute. And they'll go off and somebody else will come, then I'll start my story all over again. And I'll get just a little bit further than the last time, and then they would say, wait a minute, and go and call someone else. And it went on and on till finally, when I was on the first person, but that's because they kept calling people according to the amount of English they could speak. So eventually, when they got what I was trying to say, they then made me write my, in those days we did not have debit cards or credit cards for our organizations. In fact, very few of us even have personal credit cards. But for organizations to have cards, back then there wasn't a thing. So we had to travel with traveler's checks. So I had to write my full name, not just BC, Olabisi Oluyemi Adeleye Fayemi, as it appears on my passport, my passport number and my full address on every single traveler's check, which amounted to over $30,000. So that's how come it took me up to 4 p.m. to check in. And as soon as I got into my room, meanwhile all the women I was checking in, they had all left me to go to their rooms. So when I got to my room around 4 and flopped onto the bed, like, thank goodness, I then got a desperate call from Gloria, Sarah, Zida, in Huairu, who at that time, at 4 p.m. that afternoon, did not have rooms. Because the place where they were supposed to stay, when they took them there, they found that the place was an uncompleted building. So they had the place to stay, they were hysterical. And I think at that time, I didn't know it was when I got there, or before I got there, Gloria had fainted. This is Gloria, by the way. So I jumped out of bed, got a taxi and had to find my way down to Huairu to help my sisters there sort out their accommodation issues. So dear sisters, it has been 30 years and we have done all the things that Aunt Elizabeth spoke about. We've worked on economic justice issues, on women and political participation, on the rights of girls, on women's bodily integrity, on building movements. We've done it and we continue to do it. And sometimes it can feel overwhelming, and sometimes it can feel as if we are not making a dent. But believe me, the more gains we make, the more we'll have to fight to hold on to those gains. And we can't afford to be tired because the forces of retrogression, the patriarchal principalities and powers, they are never tired. So they count on wearing us out. They count on us being too weary to show up, to sustain our movements, to do the advocacy, to stand on business, as the young people will say. So we can't afford to be tired of doing all those things. So as we gather to celebrate Akinamama Africa at 40, we need to remember, for those of us who started off with Akinamama in London at the time, and seeing how many organizations started at that time as well, and the fact that Akinamama is still standing. And here on the continent, with all the fantastic work that Akinamama has led, with all the women who are passed through the Leadership Institute, Akinamama Africa continues to be one of the most formidable women's rights organizations on the continent. And for those of you who might not know, Akinamama Wa Africa incubated the African Women's Development Fund. Because yes, I'm a co-founder of AWDF, but we incubated it within Akinamama Wa Africa for at least a year before I then left Akinamama to move to Uganda and to Ghana to run AWDF full-time in collaboration with Dr. Hilda Tadria, who I hope will join us, and the late Joanna Foster. So Akinamama Wa Africa has done amazing things, and we can only hope that the next generation will continue to do absolutely wonderful things. For those of you who are wondering about the Amanda Institute for Leadership and Policy Advancement, this is something my husband and I put together early this year. For those of you who know, my husband went into politics. I was minding my own business in my feminist philanthropy space, and my husband decided to go into politics, and he became governor of one of the states in Nigeria, and he also served as a minister. And so after his 2 terms in office, some of our friends said there are things that we need to do to continue to work on the intersections of governance, of civil society and the private sector to encourage current leadership and also a pipeline for upcoming leadership. So that's how the Amanda Institute was established. And I felt that since this is the 40th anniversary of Akinamama, and with all the wonderful work that Akinamama has done with the Leadership Institute, this would be an appropriate time for us to take stock of how far we have come and the challenges that we need to address next. So thank you very much, Akinamama, for collaborating with us, and I wish everyone a great meeting.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bisi Adele Fayemi. I love bold women. When she came on stage, she said that hand clap wasn't for me. So can we give her a deserving hand clap, like in the spirit of sisterhood? Yes. Is that more of it? Is that better? That's for you. Thank you very much. I would also like to let you know that we're having a virtual that's joining online and following this dialogue, and at a later time when I think we go to the
Good morning to you all. Good morning. Yes. You've heard my name. I'm Jane Mpaji. I was working in the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, the national machine. To come and speak, I asked her what was I going to say. Then she said the solidarity statement. I've never done one. I rang her again. I said, okay, maybe I will speak from the national experience, and I will talk about Beijing and beyond, and I will be reflecting on the national experience. Before I start, I must say this is a very important meeting and an emotional one for me too. I want to thank Akinamama for inviting me to this dialogue. Somehow, of the people that I've worked with in the ministry, or I worked with in the ministry, I continue to be invited by the Civil Society of Uganda, and I really can't take this for granted. I thank you so much. Recently, I was with the Baha'i Faith, again speaking about Beijing Plus 30. I was with the Orthodox Church of Uganda. again speaking about Beijing from +30. But that time at Beijing, I wasn't alone in the ministry. Yes, I was a young officer, but were many. And when I looked back, many of us are still there. We have lost 1 or 2 or 3, but many of us are still there. And today, I invited one of the person who was a logistics officer then. I'm not so sure whether she has arrived. Ida, have you arrived? Ida Chigonya? I rang her a while ago. She told me she would be coming. She was the logistics officer. I want to congratulate Akina Mama wa Africa. And this is emotional for me because when we came from Beijing, in the national machinery, we had a young, vibrant officer with sharp brain lawyer called Stella Mukasa. Yes, now she came into the meeting and said there is an organization that wants to establish its office in Uganda. And then she started saying, Akina Mama wa Africa, it means solidarity. And you know, in the government, we do a lot of things, including vetting, including writing statements to the powers that are on whether an organization should get a base in that country or not. I do recall Stella explaining to us, and finally, our bosses then agreed to have Akina Mama be hosted in Uganda. So I want to congratulate you and wish you a happy birthday, which is almost 30 years as you are based in Uganda. That's the time I saw BC with Stella Mukasa. You were very good friends. Stella Mukasa went on, left the ministry, worked with the Nordic consultants firm, and later on joined the, I think the International Research Center for Women, and then she passed on a few years back. Can we stand and we observe a moment of silence? Because without Stella, Akina Mama of Africa wouldn't be in Uganda. May her soul rest in peace. So Beijing was a momentous occasion for us. We were there as Uganda delegation when the Beijing platform was adopted. In the wee hours, what we call 12th September, but us from far away from Africa would have called it 11th September because it was a few minutes after midnight. But as a country, as I said, I'm going to talk from my experience. As a country, we really had a 2-year-long preparations of this conference that we fondly call Beijing. For us as a country, it provided an opportunity for us to showcase what our country had done. For instance, 9 years earlier, the government, the NRM government, had brought in very conducive environment for women and had instituted one of the progressive policies, and one of them was affirmative action for women's participation in governance at parliamentary level and also at the local government level. But also, we had this progressive policy, of course with the fight of our colleagues and media, we talk about it, about the 1.5 point entry of girls into the university. So we were proud to go and showcase that. Also, for the first time, the preparations of such a big meeting was being convened under a national machinery for gender equality and women's empowerment. Yes, as a country, we had participated in the previous conferences, Mexico, Copenhagen, and Nairobi. But the preparations were under an NGO, sort of a parastatal, the National Council for Women. So this time it was the ministry, and it was something that we're taking to Beijing to showcase that we had a ministry, a national machinery in charge of gender. But also, as a country, we had realized at the time that we had to move beyond women in development to gender in development. So we had started gender mainstreaming, and we had started engaging different sectors to mainstream gender in the sectors. And we had worked with some ministries to have gender-oriented policies. So that was something that we're taking to Beijing. But also, we had coalesced together and worked together with women organizations. I do recall that we wrote a report at that time. And I always feel proud to go back and look at it as the standard and see how far we have gone. Among the women NGOs, this occasion was momentous. It was immense. And the excitement among the women's movement was unprecedented. And for good reasons too. Because again, when the current government came in, it had also ushered in a conducive environment for the women organizations in Uganda. Recalling that way back in 1978, under Decree number 3 of the then government, which had established the National Council of Women, it essentially banned all the women organizations, although the National Council for Women was supposed to be an umbrella, but it wasn't the case. Most of the organizations were working underground. So it was very exciting for the women organization again to come up and participate in these preparations. I do recall the National Association of Women Organizations of Uganda spearheading, coordinating with other organizations like ACFOD, and another young organization that has lived up to date, UONET, which was established in 1993, made the preparations. So with that momentous in the country, we did participate effectively at the sub-regional level, continental level, the seminars, during the meetings, and making sure that the issues as Africa were brought on board. I do recall in 1994, when we had gone for the continental meeting, the African preparatory meeting in Dakar, and we're moving and we're happy as a delegation, and then we got news that back home in the country, we had gotten the first ever female vice president on the African continent. And that was no other than Dr. Speciosa Wadera Kazibwe. Of course, she didn't come for the meeting, but we're so glad and happy to tell everybody that met us, that we had a woman vice president. And that time, as a delegation, which was being led by a male permanent secretary, saw it fit to say, Miriam Matembe became our delegation head, much as she was from an NGO. The government co-opted her, and she became our leader as we're celebrating the appointment of the vice president. As Africa, of course, Uganda, we had our issues. We wanted to put into the African platform for action. But as Africa, I remember we were strong about issues that were never brought about by our colleagues in the North. And when you read the platform for action, and you find that critical area of concern, the girl child, that was for Africa. And it's something we should keep up as Africa, because we need to keep nurturing the young souls, because it was our input into the platform for action. Of course, the platform, which was the outcome, was our source of pride, because it is a comprehensive blueprint that affirms women's rights. It provides a detailed framework to address the 12 critical areas of concern. It has practical steps, including commitment from government to implement national policies that empower women and report on the progress. But also, most importantly, this platform was and is still futuristic. It imagined and put in place issues that are pertinent today. When we're talking about technology then, we didn't know what it would be. But now we are living the technology that was put in the platform 30 years back. Friends, it is 30 years down the lane. The Beijing platform remains a policy for achieving gender equality. The issues in there are still permanent. But recently, the Global Review, in preparation for the 69th session of the CSW, concluded that the progress is still slow and uneven, and that no country in the world has attained gender equality, or women have not yet attained equal rights. But it is also surprising for many of you who were in Beijing that much as the platform was adopted by consensus, the issues that sparked contentious debates that time, we have not yet got a solution to them. They are still contentious. And these are the concept of the family, it is still contentious. Parental responsibilities are still contentious. The women's rights control sexuality and fertility is still contentious, including the definitions of gender. These were the issues that were contentious in the intergovernmental meeting, but they are still contentious up to date. So, the progress has been uneven indeed. At the home front, in Uganda here, we have experienced some progress. We have experienced stagnation, but in some cases we have also had reversals. In the issues that we had attained progress, but there is reversal. And I may not have time to go through them, but we have had reversals, we have had progress, but we have also had stagnation. We have had progress, for instance, in the enactment of policies and legal reforms. And we really thank the speaker is here. She spearheaded all those. We have had a gender-responsive constitution. We have had laws, succession laws. We have gender budgeting. These laws are there. The challenge now is implementation. We have had a narrowing of the gender gap in education with 100% at gender parity at enrollment. But of course, we cannot say we have reached home with girls' education. We have had a decline in out-of-school girls, just a decline, a dent. We have also had a decline in maternal mortality, but still women are dying during childbirth. Our proportion of women in parliament has more than doubled. When I look at the report we wrote in that time, we had only 18%. We now have 33%, 33.8%, a little bit above the threshold set in the platform for action. But we would like to go 50-50 as the population is. There's also some evidence of women participating in the local government, in civil service, the CEOs of commissions, ambassadors, and a good number of women are heading organizations in the private sector. But it's not yet home. Our major challenge, I have had an opportunity, since I retired in 2018, I've had an opportunity to write the 2 government reports in 2020 and then the last one in 2024 as a consultant. What I found out in the research is that the major challenges that we still have in this country are the discriminatory social norms. And surprisingly, that is what the Global is also finding out. The discriminatory social norms, which are embedded in social institutions, the state institutions, the religious institutions, including families. And these norms have actually reinforced the unequal status of women, with the resultant effects of, for instance, our stagnating levels in teenage pregnancies. In this country, 1 out of the 4 girls is likely to be pregnant, is likely to be facing child marriage, which of course hinders, girls' education. Gender-based violence is still an issue in various forms, including the emerging forms. We have had reversals in the institutions that have been established and we thought we were going to help women. But nonetheless, not all is lost. That is why we are here, and that is why this meeting is very important. And that is why Akina Mama, as one of the women organizations, you are best positioned to do something. For instance, the policy landscape in this country has changed. We are now moving into development planning. Let's engage it. Let's see gender is mainstreamed there, but also let's make sure that gender is not mainstreamed out. Let us interrogate gender mainstreaming. Do we need women-specific programs, or do we need to continue mainstreaming? Then we have a number of women in these governance spaces, but they need to be supported. They need to be mentored, and they need to be supported. We need to reignite the women's movement to bring every woman on board, especially the grassroots women. When I move into the communities now, there seems now to be a disconnect. Women are the grassroots, working so hard, trying to survive, but probably the connection is weak, and it needs to be made stronger. We need to start utilizing the underutilized spaces and institutions, the social media, artificial intelligence, the cultural institutions, the religious institutions, but also go down into the families and make sure that the families nurture boys and girls to be equal. Lastly, we need to bring the young girl. The young girl has to come up. A few years ago, I'm sorry to say this experience, a few years ago, when we were celebrating Beijing plus 20, I came up to speak. And one of the girls in the audience said, "Bana bachara bagende Beijing bachariko." In our language it says, these women who went to Beijing are still around and occupying government spaces. I am now left. Have these girls now occupied the spaces that we're occupying? They are impatient. They think we are too there for too long, but are they occupying the spaces? Let's bring them up. Lastly, we should not despair. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Each one of us needs to do a bit when we can and when we are able. I want to leave you with this quote of Julia Gillard, who was the former Prime Minister of Australia, and she said, and I quote, "What I'm absolutely confident of is it will be easier for the next woman, and the woman after, and the woman after, and that I am proud of." Thank you so much for listening to me. As for the journey we took as a country, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, which I served many years ago, has a magazine, The Uganda Woman, and they dedicated the March version to Beijing plus 30, and I had an opportunity to write an article in that magazine of the journey we took as we were going to Beijing. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Madam Jane Mpaji. She's the former Director of Gender and Community Development in the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. We do appreciate you for that. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of the following people. Professor Sylvia Tamale from the Academia, if you could just wave to the audience. We also have Sarah Mukasa, the Deputy Director, Open Society Foundation East Africa. Could just wave, let people know and see where you are. Ms. Solomon Nakawesi, the former Executive Director, Kina Mama wa Africa. Good to have you in the room with us. Honorable Beatrice Chiraso, former Deputy Secretary General, East African Legislative Assembly. East African Community, yes, EAC, yes, you're most welcome. Thank you for joining us. Ms. Yvonne Pambara, Madam President, former presidential aspirant in this election cycle. We have Yvonne, just wave to the room. She's here. Wave, maybe you stand up. Somebody wants to see you. She will let us know. We also also have Toko Mache, former Executive Director, Akina Mama, South Africa. And Ms. Caroline Gaita, Executive Director, Mzalendo Trust, Kenya. Over there. The Ellen Johnson Sirleaf Presidential Center. I don't know who is representing, but thank you very much. And we have Raiso, Make Every Woman Count from Guinea. Thank you. Also in the room, we have representatives from political party women leagues in Uganda. I know you're quite a number. Could you just, one over there, 2, 3. We're happy. 4, we're very happy to have you. And the Inter-Party Women's Platform. Where are you? Again, yes, thank you very much. So we are still on solidarity remarks, and I would now take the opportunity to invite Honorable Miriam Matembe, who does not need a lot of introduction. She's the former Minister of Ethics and Integrity of the Republic of Uganda, but she thinks these titles mean nothing. She prefers to be called the child of God. You can see how she's nodding. So Honorable Matembe, please, may I invite you to come and spill your wisdom. We are here waiting to hear from you.
Yes, I'm sure we have very little time, so I will just say what comes in my head. First of all, I want to thank the Lord. I noted that we started without prayer and I was not feeling comfortable, but since time has gone, let us thank the Lord who has brought us this far. Because 30 years ago with Beijing, and some of us are still alive because the girls were thinking we had gone already. But anyway, protocol, our Madam, great speaker, former speaker, Rebecca Kadaga, our Madam BC, behind this thing why we are here. And mostly all of you, the African, but I will ask you one thing. You who are not from Uganda, why don't you stand up and we see you? Please allow that, because we know you are here and some of them are Ugandans. You see? Yeah, you are great. You see, we didn't know. Hallelujah! Africa is here. Praise the Lord. Okay, you can see it. But you know, the people who brought microphone, they never even, in Uganda here, when women are here, we have music that takes us to the platform because we are celebrating. But today, why do you call these people who don't do anything? Anyway, I hope before you leave, these African women will really feel happy and dance because we are celebrating 30 years. Okay? You are most welcome, my dear sisters. Some of us have traversed all your countries, and when we see you here, we are very, very happy. I can see here Florence looking at me. I told you I will say anything that comes. Because we are talking about Akina Mama wa Africa as an African organization, but I need to remind you that immediately after Beijing, Women Run Development in Africa was established in Zimbabwe, and then we had Feminine in Kenya. I tell you, we are vibrant. We did good work. And I thank the Lord that we are here. Yes, I'm telling you. And me now going back to be orderly. Me as a person who by 9 years, my dream was to grow up and talk for women's rights. I didn't know gender equality and women's empowerment. But I lived in an environment that was so bad, so discriminative. So by 9 years, I said when I grow, I was imagining of a time I would stand on a hill, you know, as a little girl on a hill, and I call women and say, women, come here, girls, come here. Let us refuse. They are cheating us. All these were in my mind, and that's how I grew up. And finally, of course, why I thank the Lord, he was able to get the dream I had ever wanted, to stand on a platform in the village of Rutoma with Wera and call women and girls and tell them, let us refuse what they are doing to us in terms of discrimination. Little did I know that one day I will stand at the national level of Uganda and shout and shout and shout, and women would come and we be who we are. Little did I know that I will stand on the African platform. I remember the first time I stood at Nigeria, I talked. I'm not going into these stories, but you know, for me, I had come from this. When they were bringing us, the first lady is coming, then we start meeting, the first lady comes, it was, hey, that was African Commission. The next day they said the first lady is coming. I put up my hand, I said, we are tired of the first lady. We did not come here to see Vitenge, beautiful Vitenge. We've left first ladies back home. We are here to do things. Serious things. And the first lady did not come back. And we sat and concluded. And then when we were in Beijing, Dhaka Senegal, you know, we are talking of how Ugandans really influenced, impacted on that Beijing thing. Because Dhaka in Senegal, that's why we are putting together what Africa was going to put into Beijing. And when Madame Kazwe did not turn up, I had just arrived in the night, they told me you are the one, you know, to speak on behalf of Uganda government. I said, where are the statement? They said, you get it out of your mouth. And of course I stood, I used to talk as NGO, no diplomacy. I tell you, those people, anyway, those are the things. So when I see us, and then finally you people, you don't know what I felt when I found myself at Beijing. Can you imagine? You wanted to talk in the village at Beijing there, and I talked to plenary, and my subject was strategies to increase women's participation in politics and governance. And I stood there, I thought, so, and of course we wrote a book. You remember the book? Looking at the world from women's eyes? If you go, you find my statement there. So why am I telling you all this? I'm telling you because me, I think we really celebrate. Because the truth, these young girls who are here, 30 years when you are not here, everything that you are enjoying and everything is going on was fought for. Nothing was automatic. Nothing was automatic, I'm telling you. When I got into the public platform in 1986, when the NRM government had come here, I usually give President Museveni credit before I discuss what I don't agree with him. But I give him credit first. If he had not come to take over this land, I would have died with my dream. But the moment he entered here, I was like, you open a dog is caged there, and you open for it. And how it jumps out is how Miriam Matembe jumped out. I know what I suffered, but what I want to tell, and I will say just one, I'm sure you also African countries, things were like that for you. Because that time, nobody could talk about women. Women were nowhere. Women were nowhere, I'm telling you, 40 years ago in Uganda. Women were there struggling, fighting, but they could not be seen, they could not be heard. They were there, they are social. The only thing they would do, social cook, well, do this, all that kind of nonsense. And me, I was fighting, when are they going to have their rights also as equal human beings? So 40, we can say 40 years in Uganda, we have come from far. When I see people saying, these women, what have they achieved? What are you talking about? Not everybody was studying every course. Things were tough, things were rough. We fought and fought and fought until we reached where we are. And I believe all the African countries, things were like that. So for us, see Madame there, you remember FIDA, Action for Development. I remember when Action for Development, the first book it wrote was Visible at Last. Visible. Otherwise, you are there, but they don't see you are there. And then when we put Mama FM, we said, Audible at Last. And then forward, when it came, the book we wrote, those are books we wrote as achievements of what we are doing. We wrote the rising tide. I'm telling you, after Beijing there, the tide in Uganda of women empowerment rised up like that. And when I was launching the book, I said the next book we shall launch will be The Waving Roar. Yes, the waving, the roaring wave. You know the oceans, you know oceans. The tide rises and then it rolls. And when it rolls, it reaches other areas. So I said next time the book will be The Roaring Wave. Unfortunately, the wave never roared here. It is like I'm finishing my speech. So the wave never roared. We have not written that book. So that shows you what she was explaining. Yes, here, but. But the message I want you to go with is that we have come from far. BC, I want to thank you so much. I remember I met you, I went there, I met her, we talked about Akina Mama wa Africa, we came here, we were talking, and then eventually it was here. And the ICC, by the way, it also ended there. Because of the environment, the political environment in this country was so conducive, was welcoming everybody and everything. And so by 10 years, by 10 to Beijing, we already knew what to do. We are vibrant. We influenced those debates wherever they were. And remember, we were also doing our constitution. In fact, all these principles which were there, I said they are copying our constitution, but we had influenced them. And we started moving. I want to believe that all other countries also moved. But what we need to know is that there is always a challenge. What we need to know is the journey for gender equality and women's empowerment is a journey. It is a journey for freedom, it is a journey for liberation, and every step you take, you celebrate and move on. And I have always said it, that it is not a one-day activity. When people are demeaning you and say, these women, where are they, where? You will say, we are there. We are there, and we are moving on. And I'm here to assure you, like this was telling us, don't give up. If I ask the people I started the struggle with to stand up here, I don't know how many. Yes, Florence, I see you, but you are not a politician. And other, where are they? Stand up. Those who were with me in all these battles, in all this shouting, in all this suffering. Do you know that, BC, when they call me to these meetings, I find myself alone? The young people can testify. I'm about to run away also from there. I'm telling you. But this Jen is there also, and Florence is there. But the rest, I don't know, they are tired. Madam Speaker, you need to help us mobilize. You know, we went there together. You are the only one who remained. You have remained active in office, in work. But for us whom they dump there, they go and get lost. And so, I want to thank the Lord that I'm still standing, and I'm here to inspire, to motivate you, and to tell the young girls, let me finish. I've said a lot, somebody has to think. What I note as challenges now for the young people, first you have noted that we have come from far, from nothing to very big things. You hear? And what helped us? The conducive political environment. Now, the conducive political environment in Uganda has changed. I don't know you sisters in Africa, maybe for you are doing better. For us, the peaceful environment now went away. Corruption, greed for power, all these things have spoiled the environment in which we are vibrant and doing very well. So when you are looking at the future, what do we do in a difficult, conducive environment? The other thing is technology. Those days, we are doing different things. Jen told you, no, we did 1.5 affirmative action, everything for the women. But now, I don't know what you young people are going to do. You need to learn that the environment changes. Circumstances have changed. You need, I was saying here, there is a new, I don't know where you are going to get this vibe that we run with. Because what I find as challenges here in these days, there is this backlash. They call it backlash. It's like people are fed up, they are tired with us, they are now fighting the gender equality movement. Many people are fighting it. So we need to notice that, hey, when you have come, I didn't see you. We have here the former leader of opposition in parliament. Those were my daughters whom I vibed up, and thank you for coming. I was very busy with my things. So now, so backlash is here. And for me, let me tell you, this I will tell you honestly. Yes, we fought. Yes, we reached here. But this issue of not having men on board with us, we have got to resist that. We tried our best to talk to many. But you see, they were resistant. But now that they are crying out that the boy child is left out, and the truth it is true. The boys have become shocked, the men became shocked, because they used to be told girls are nothing, women are no. Then for us we say, girls, you are something, you are very important, and the women have come, they are really women, human rights, full human beings, and then the boys who are told you are a boy, you are a man, you are a boy, without dissecting it, tell them what a boy or man means, they have found themselves in shock. So one of the biggest challenges now is how are we going now to capture these men so that they may understand what we are fighting for. I remember we put a play which was Time Bomb. These days when they say, Matende, you left boy child, I said, did I produce that child for you? Because I put there the Time Bomb play. It was warning them that if you don't rise and we move together, there's a time bomb. And it has come now. So we've got to see how we redeem that situation. I don't know how you are going to make sure that we mobilize these men. Me, I have already started in Rotary everywhere. When they tell me I've abandoned the boy child, I said, you produced your boy child. Let us get together and see how we bridge the gap. Because that's why the backlash is coming in. Because they've seen women have become great and men are bowing down. Because they were not taught, the good thing about this gender equality. They misunderstand it. They want to remain a man is a man by word of mouth. A man is not a man by word of mouth. A man is a man by what she does and whatever. They need to know all these things. We've got to tell people that thing. Then the other problem which I say is this arrival mentality. These young people having arrived and they are studying every course and they are enjoying everything, they don't know that we fought for it. And so they just do their jobs and they don't get into to fight for sustainability and advancement of what we fought for. So arrival mentality must stop and that complacency must stop. Haven't I said everything? Yeah. So me, I was giving strategies of what should come in and how we should behave. We have to really know the truth that the things are not going good, especially we as people in Africa. We depend on our family. When families are breaking, when children are getting lost, then what are we fighting for? We were fighting for gender equality and women's empowerment, for the betterment of humanity, but not to destroy humanity. So we need to really look at these things and see how we move. And young people rise up for us. We are not tired. I want to use that word tired. We are available to guide you and so that you can be as vibrant. Me, I want to pray that God may release His Holy Spirit in you, all you young people, all those who are getting tired, that they must know that the battle is still on and we shall win it. We don't have to see. We who started, the Mpangas have gone, our mothers. Now in Uganda we have the daughters of the movement. The mothers, all of them actually have gone. The mothers of the women movement have rested. We the daughters are still here, but we are not as vibrant as we should be. And then we have the granddaughters. Please, if you don't rise up and empower yourselves, you may go back But let's cancel that business of going back, but knowing that we shall move and move on. I wish you the best. I'm so glad you African women, you will share with us what happened in your countries, but I'm so happy that we are here to reflect. Thank you, madam, for funding this thing, and we are happy that you called us. Vanange Kari.
Thank you very much, Honorable Miriam Matembe, for that fiery solidarity remark. Thank you, we do appreciate. I would, Honorable Winnie Kiza has already been recognized by the Honorable Matembe, but glad to have you join us, Honorable. We also have with us in the room Ms. Tokozile Rizvidzo, I don't know if that's the right pronunciation, former board chair, Akina Mama wa Africa. There she is, great. And we also have Leah Chipepa, former ED as well of AMWA, Zimbabwe or Zambia? Zambia, yes, thank you very much. We now move on to our official opening, and at this juncture, I'll now take the pleasure and honor to invite the Right Honorable Rebecca Kadaga, our chief guest. She's the Deputy Prime Minister in charge of East African Affairs and former Speaker of the Parliament of Uganda. You're most welcome.
Good morning. Such a pleasure to see all of you here today. And I was sitting there thinking about the UN Commission on the Status of Women. You know, every March when we had this meeting in New York, what used to sit in my head was the colorful African women from everybody else. So thank you for coming. And on behalf of the government, I want to welcome you to Uganda. This is the land of the source of the Nile, the land of the Greater Lakes, the land of the Uganda Matters. The people of Uganda were smiling. That one you're going to find out. Let me thank Akinima Africa and the Amandla Institute for putting together this meeting so that we can evaluate where we stand. Of course, it's been a very long journey, an exciting journey. I remember when Beijing happened, we had just had the Nairobi was 1985. So within the region here, the idea of changes the status of women was high. It's near us, so it left an impression in the community that something was happening. Not everybody was able to go to Beijing, but we want to welcome back those who went and spoke for us, and grateful for the platform, which has remained our Bible all that time. So I really want to thank all of us and the governments that have been able to undertake those commitments. In Uganda, we have, of course, now the Ministry of Women, Gender, Labour and Social Development. Although it was squashed up with different other things, it became a department, but still it's doing the same job. However, there have been a few changes in some areas. For instance, within the judiciary, we now have 51% out of 119 judges. We have 61 who are women, just over 50%. So I think that's really a big jump from where we were. I think what about Beijing, we had less than 10 women judges in this country. This is Chikonyogo. Yes, it was quite something. Yes, you know, Mrs. Waigaine, the lecturer Margaret Kireshu, Or those came later. So, but things have changed. We've not yet succeeded in getting a woman's Chief Justice, but anyway, one of these days. Then at the time when we had the Beijing, they were left. This thing has died. Okay, we stand at 14 cabinet ministers, 24 ministers of state. That's 48% against an improvement. In the last government, I think we have some areas which are not looking very good. If you look at the Uganda police force, we have only 18.3%. And yet we are dealing with a big population. There are girls, there are children, there are domestic issues to deal with, there are all kinds of things. But we are at 18%. So that's an area of concern. You've been told about our education system. It has improved massively at the top. And now at the graduation, there are, especially at Makerere, there are more girls graduating than boys. So that one at least has improved because of first of the 1%. It has really brought up people. So work has been done there at the top. However, if you look down, there's a very, very high rate of attrition. Many girls are not finishing primary school. Many girls are not finishing secondary school. So where are they going? Wasted, and in very, very big numbers. So I think we still have, and we need to something about. In Media already have the first residence councils, 1989, 89 residence councils. Our local councils in the villages where we had a committee of 9. In the beginning, there was supposed to be a lady on the committee. In many places, the lady said no. Let a man sit in this position. So the whole committee was men because they said, nah, we're not going to go there. They refused to participate in the election. They didn't think it was their business, managing a village, managing a committee, managing affairs. But today, we have many ladies in the councils. We have many ladies who are chairpersons for sub-county councils. We have chairpersons for district councils. So things have changed. There's been a big change, and so on and so forth. So in some areas we are doing well. In other areas, we still need to do some work. But let us look just quickly at within the African continent. When I was speaker, one of the things I did as the chair of the Commonwealth African Women Parliamentarians was to set up an arrangement where we evaluated representation on the continent and made sure that 2 years before an election, we would go to that country and talk to the party leaders, especially where they don't have good representation. Talk to the party leaders, try to convince them to amend the constitutions, try to convince them to nominate where possible. In some areas it worked, some areas it did not work. And it was a very good working system, but I don't know whether it's still happening now. But it was something we were using to help one another, to uplift one another. But you would go to the Pacific and find a lone woman, one woman in the chamber. Small as it is, just one woman in the Pacific Islands, or none at all. And life was going on. Government was running, no woman at all. And life was going on. Then we have our giant Nigeria. You'd imagine that a rich country, a big country like that, would have good representation. But today you have 109 members in the Senate, 4 women. 4. Bana. And you remember the saga of one of these senators who was suspended for complaining about sexual harassment by the Senate President. She was suspended for 6 months for speaking out. This is happening. And then the House of Representatives, 469 members, 16 are women. Yes, in the House of Reps, 469 total. The women are 16. None. No, they refused. They refused. They refused. I don't know what has happened in Ghana. I went to Ghana some years back, and we had a week-long meeting with the party leaders there. I don't know if they eventually managed to change the attitude and change their way of working. But they're also adamant, no affirmative action, everyone must fight. They need for making space for women to speak the issues of women.